Welcome back. We are here in the Singletrack studio with good friend Ryan Montgomery. Before we get started, thank you so much to Brooks for making this entire week possible. Go check out their Cascadia 18 shoe, their High Point clothing collection. Also thanks to NAC, thanks to Delta G Ketones, thanks to Rabbit. Ryan, great to have you here. Love the headband, channeling Scott Jurek.
I'm just channeling Scott right now. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here kicking off Western States Week here in the Valley. So thanks for having me.
I would consider you kind of like a veteran of the sport. I think you've been around the ultra scene for quite a few more years than I think people know. We were talking about it the other day actually on our preview show, how you have run a lot of different kinds of races across like distances, terrains, multi-day. What are some of like the big learnings that come from diversifying your race portfolio when you take that into something like Western States?
Yeah. So it's funny that you consider me to be a veteran just because I'm 30 years old. And I feel like I'm just like starting like in many ways like my ultra running career, but I was trying to run some stats this week because I made a post recently and I was trying to understand how many ultras have I actually ran and how many hundreds have I ran. And I think the number is, there's probably some margin of error. It's probably undercounted, but this will be my 15th 100 miler.
That's a lot of hundreds.
Which is a lot of hundreds. And I think it's going to be like 45 ultras altogether. So yeah, it is a lot of running, a lot of races. And to answer your question, like, how does like the diversity of all those races yield like a performance at Western States? Mm-hmm. And the way I describe it is that because of all of my races that I've had, I've experienced nearly everything possible, from running in 120 degree weather at Badwater in 2018 to running in negative 20 degree weather in this 100 miler I did in Alaska in the middle of winter. Like I've truly have experienced anything that can happen in a 100 miler. And so what I equate that to is experience. And I think it takes someone that like has had this experience and has had to work through these issues to know how to problem solve really well. And I think you probably saw that last year at Western States when I felt like garbage at Michigan Bluff. I was also in
amazing moment.
That was one of our favorite Western States.
Our favorite story.
We've talked about it so many times on the pod of like the reincarnation of Ryan Montgomery from Michigan Bluff. It was so cool to see.
Well, there was like so many things happening that moment. Is like I had an equipment issue, and then I was like in a bad mood, and I was hot, and I got passed on that climb up to Michigan. So there's like so many things happening, but because I like know my body really well and I know it can bounce back, I knew that like if I just gave it some love for like a few minutes, I was going to like come around, and sure enough I did. And I like ran into Forest Hill feeling amazing. So to answer your question, like I have a lot of confidence that I think all of my experience will help me a lot in my race.
Building off what Brett said, when I look at the arc of your career, it looks so process oriented, like you sort of had a strategy all along. And I guess the question I have for you is, do you remember the moment when you decided, I want to be really good at this and I really want to dedicate a lot to this? Like, and what was that moment? Like recount that like spark.
I actually started ultra running not to be competitive. I mean, there's always been like a competitive aspect of me, but I got into ultra running for the experience. And I think that's why a lot of my first 100 milers were like fun experience races. Like for whatever reason, after 300 milers, I applied to Badwater because I wanted that experience. I did that Alaska race because I wanted to experience something just like epic, and I wanted to go on an adventure. And so then I remember, to answer your other question, like when was that pivot of like, when can I be a competitive athlete? It was actually 2019, and I was living in San Francisco, and I reached out to Anime Flynn, and I was like, Anime, I want to see like what I'm capable of as an athlete. And so it was like late summer, early fall. She decided to like coach me. And that was when I think I had my first breakout race. Was that December I ran the US Trail Championships 100 miler at Brazos Bend, and I ran sub 13. And I think that was when I realized, like, actually, I think I have something in me to be like more competitive. So I think that was like the tipping point.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that has really impressed me in the last 3 months, and I guess in the modern age, like, I consider Instagram to be a source of like how an athlete is thinking, how they're feeling, trip reports, race reports, etc. And you had this amazing post a couple weeks back, I was telling you this offline, where you just open up about all of the little things that are required to sort of get to the top, stay to the top, that aren't always publicized. They're behind the scenes. For people that didn't read that post, can you talk about some of that here? Because I think it does tie into, like, once you do commit, right, there is a certain lifestyle that you have to abide to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I want to caveat this by saying, if you want to be hyper competitive, there is elements of sacrifice. And I think a lot of people can like find that balance. I think for me in 2021, I moved to Utah and I decided to live in like the Park City area because I wanted to experience like what it could feel like to try to be a little bit more all in on running. I'm not all in on running, by the way. Like, I have a full-time job and I do a lot of other things, but like some of those things, like, what does that look like? I think it means that I'm trying to do the math in my head, but like a combination of like training plus like all the small stuff. There's like so many small things.
What's
like,
an example? What's a small thing?
Going to the gym. I go see a doctor. Like, I have a foot and ankle surgeon doctor that I see probably every other week. We do like shockwave therapy on like my ankle and some other things that like just come up in training. So I'm driving down to Salt Lake, 40-minute drive to go do that. I'm going to the gym, a couple times a week. I'm doing sauna training. What else am I doing? There's just like so many of those small things that take out of your day. Also, like, for example, my weekends are like prime time for like doing long runs. So I get invited to like a Friday night party that's going to go to like 2 a.m.
We miss you.
Yeah. I'm like, do I go do that? And do I like sacrifice maybe some like training the next day? And like, I'm constantly doing this evaluation of these trade-offs. And so I'm trying to find that balance often. So I think that weighs on me a lot, that this constant trade-off decision.
Talk about that. Like, do you like, once you commit, do you feel like ownership and you're happy that you're in that lane, or do you second guess?
I think I would second guess more if running and training doesn't like get me amped and like it's not something I'm passionate about. Every single day I am like excited to run. And if you look at my Strava, I like run a lot of the same routes from my house in Utah. I like have run this climb out of my house. It's like 1,000-foot climb up this. You've been there, Finn, actually. We shot a video there once. And I've run that thing so many times, but like every time I run it, I feel like I get to see a new perspective. Like I see a new bird, or like I see the clouds in a different light. It almost feels like I get to run it every single day in a different light. And that is like exciting to me. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like passionate about training every day. So I think that makes the sacrifices a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes a lot more sense than like if you were on the track every single day.
Yeah. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah. This is very different, it seems like. Where was I going to go from that? Oh, so last year, top 10 at Western States. You then immediately know that if you want to, you're back for this year. How much have you thought about Western States since the race last year? Are you the kind of runner that's like immediately like, I got 364 more days till Western States. Gotta get tough. Yeah. like that, or is it like, I'm going to do other things? I know the race is going to be there. We'll think about it when it gets closer. What's that been like?
I feel like when it comes to my running right now, I do feel like I'm in like this Western States cog where I want to like continue to improve. So it's always in the back of my head. But to directly answer your question, like after Western States, it was not on my mind because there were so many other goals that I had over the last year. A couple of those was I quickly wanted to like improve on my time at Javelina.
Mm-hmm.
It's a race that I just love so much for like the environment, culture, and it's just a course that I love. So I like that was a goal. And then also secondly, I really wanted to run a marathon. I like wanted to see how fast I can run a marathon.
Crushed it at Boston this year.
Thank you. Yeah. And so that was the other priority is I wanted to like have like a little fast era before I transitioned back to Western States training.
Which we've talked
about
that. Like, would you rather go into Western States from a like shorter, faster block and then move up to the distance / time of Western States, or the opposite? Go from like a 24-hour 100-miler and then drop down to Western States.
In terms of training.
Yeah, it seems like you've gone the speedy side going up to it. I don't know if that was on purpose or just because that was just where the race is laid out.
Yeah, I think I've done both strategies, and this is my... So last fall, I did a September marathon.
Okay.
And then transitioned into Javelina, and I think that worked well for me. And so I took the same strategy for Western States this year, actually. So I wanted to use winter where I'm like road running a lot to just train for a marathon, run Boston, and then transition to Western States. And I think it has helped me a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's no perfect formula. It's just like at the end of the day, we're all just kind of experimenting, but it seems to work really well for me. And also just like running Boston was so fun. I like kind of forgot how fun it is to run just like a true hype race.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was like, I just like had so much fun that day. And I think I took some elements of like running Boston, and I think I'm going to channel that into Western States. Like I think having fun and just like channeling energy from like the crowds at aid stations, like yields like such a high performance boost. And I saw that at Boston. So I want to do that again here at Western, I think.
Did it change your confidence, like logging at 2:27, or are you the same mentally that you were before the race that you are after?
Yeah, I think I would be lying if I said it didn't. I think my goal was like just to run 2:30. And by the way, I have to like joke with Jason Coop, who coaches me now. We were like still getting to know each other like as an athlete coach relationship. And I remember talking to him, and I was like doing my workouts, and I asked Coop, I was like, what do you think I could run at Boston? And he's like, probably like 2:45-ish based on your workouts. And I'm like,
excuse me?
I was like, wait, I'm like planning to run sub 2:30, Jason. And then like when I raced, he was like, oh, I'm like, this is like, you did really great. Like, good job. And so like, we're still like getting to know each other. And so that was like a fun like moment where like maybe like exceeded like my coach's expectations a little bit, and maybe like exceeded like what I could maybe do a little bit too, which was like a huge confidence boost going into this training block.
Leah Yingling in the chat asked, kind of on that line, just curious to hear about your coaching change this year and how if that has changed your approach and build up to Western States, and if there's anything that you're doing, differently this time.
Wait, there is. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was a chat. Can I answer that question after I see this chat where someone is saying, will Ryan trip some pasties this year or have a...
Try some pasties.
I think try some pasties so that I don't have a bloody nipple. Yeah, the infamous bloody nipple from last year's finish. The problem is like I actually did have tape on my nipples. It just fell off.
Oh.
And I didn't know.
So you need more strength.
Yeah.
Tape.
So there's the KT tape after like being wet all day apparently doesn't stay on. So yeah, I have some like high industrial strength tape that will be on my nipple.
It's like the Flex Seal commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually this product I love called Lucio tape. I think a lot of runners
stuff
use.
is sticky.
Yeah, that stuff sticks on, and it's probably gonna rip my nipple skin off.
Yeah. What's more painful, sub 15 at Western or ripping that stuff off?
Probably the latter, yeah. But no, we can't afford to have a bloody nipple. So thank you, Elon, for that question.
Well, Mike says industrial strength tape for industrial strength nips.
I mean, thank you, Mike, for that comment. But I mean, I've done it in training, so it's fine. But yeah, so what has changed in my training this year? I kind of separate training into two categories. One is like the obvious physical training,
Okay.
which I'll dig into in a moment. And the second is like mental fitness, which we don't talk about that very often.
It's true.
We really don't. Like,
What's mental fitness?
It is a combination of like coping strategies. It is a combination of so this is how I describe it. Physical training is like doing the work every day, running. And how has that transitioned in this year? I would say my volume is up 15% compared to last year. And just so like my long runs are long and I'm just compounding my long runs. So that is new and more aggressive. That like makes my relative perceived effort higher. But like I would say my mental fitness is like, how much mentally can I actually obtain that new perceived like effort? Like a lot of people have fitness, but like mentally they can only reach that ceiling so high.
Yeah.
And so what does like mental fitness look like? It means running a hard marathon. It means after a 6-hour run, Jason saying like, okay, now you're going to run 4 hours. Okay. After that, you're running another 5 hours. Like, it's just like mentally tasking to like tackle that. And so now like mentally, I feel like there are no challenges that I'm like afraid of like mentally. And I think experiencing Western States last year and experiencing such a low moment, my perceived effort is like so much, being able to like reach that ceiling is like so much higher now. And I would say that's like my new like mental fitness, and my coping strategies are like more varied and deeper, I would say now.
Yeah, that is such a great point. 'Cause it's like, yeah, we talk about the Western States course and how physically demanding it is, but it's like at the end of the day, how many runners are actually getting to use 100% of their fitness that they take into the race on race day?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
There's so much time over the course of the race for the head to get in the way of that.
Yeah, that's true.
That mental fitness, then, that allows you to get to that 95, 96, 97% of what you actually take into the race. That's where the big breakthroughs come from.
Yeah, I would say so too. And I think that's where like in 100-mile race, especially, that's where like experience probably trumps maybe any marginal like physical fitness gains potentially. So yeah, I'm really going to like try to lean on that this year. Like as someone, like I obviously want to do really well on Saturday, but yeah, like knowing that like I have a really high mental fitness is something that I can really capitalize on.
So do you feel like there is a pretty good amount more that you can give to this race?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like if I can use Javelina as any example, going from, I can't remember what my 2021 time was. It was like 13:30 something to running like a 15 or 12:59. Like that's a huge PR on a course that I think I truly just was able to optimize through like optimizing aid stations and like maybe running a little bit more aggressively, just marginally. That type of scale of improvement, let's apply that to now Western States. Like that's kind of what I'm expecting of myself. Yeah, I would say on Saturday.
I like what you said there about the mental fitness as you make these jumps in volume, because again, and this is just as like a layperson, I would imagine that if you do like a 15% increase, for example, in workload year over year, you could be risking something, right? Like you could have this like temporary 2 to 3 year run of like greatness, but how sustainable is that? But then to say that like, while I'm making this jump, I'm also training my mind to tolerate that and not make it this thing where I'm like overexerting. That's really compelling. I had not considered that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like the whole field is fit and you can only run so much, right? Like, sure, let's run more mileage, but like, can you actually capitalize on that physical fitness? I think the biggest bang for your buck is in the mental game, honestly. Like, I think that's truly where like someone can overtake Jim. I think that's where someone can really come out of the woodworks and like win something. Like that is really where magic happens, in my opinion.
It's the chess match. It's the chess match. It's exciting. That's what makes this race so fun.
Yeah.
Is like, it's not just like whoever has the lowest heart rate at Green Gate. It's going to win the race.
Like I'm
It's
not,
no.
yeah, I'm not obsessed with that. Like at the end of the day, like we're all going to run hard, but it's like, who can suffer the most? Who's going to welcome that sooner, you know, and like have the confidence to know that they can suffer that well. Like last year, I want to tell a story actually that I don't think a lot of people know that happened last year at Western, but when I crossed the river at Rucky Chucky, there's like this terrible, annoying climb out of the river up to Green Gate. Just because you're tired and it's like this never ending climb. And I get out of the river and I start like power walking and I tell my coach, Anna May, and who was my crew chief last year, I was like, I'm just going to take a moment and like power walk to take a break. And she is like, Ryan, no other elite is walking this. Like, this is the time for you to like go to the well and like you came here to do that. Go do it. And I was like, okay. And I ran the whole section. And then I like something happened in me where I just like, and actually Michael Tapple, who's in this room and is my crew chief this year, we like hunted down Matthew Blanchard and like on that section. And that's when I realized like what it meant to like have like new improved mental fitness. And so that is just like, those are like the stories and examples that like I'm channeling, that like you have to have confidence to know like what it feels like to go to the well and sit in that pain on like a Western States course. So
Dude, the Green Gate curse.
yeah,
Like like you said, there's always been some people who like lean into like, it's so hot, this climb takes forever, like I'm just going to take a sec. But then for some reason, like we've seen so many people like their body just shuts off after Green Gate, and then they're like lying in the cots at the Auburn Lake Trails.
Yeah, and I was then my legs were so fried. Every step was painful. Like I would step and my quads would like just be in so much pain. But then like
that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, but then you know, you were able to just like compartmentalize that pain if you like really believe in like being able to execute it. Like I just finished reading this book by Matthew Fitzgerald, I think you say his name.
Yeah.
Like how bad do you want it?
I was just
you
going to say,
song?
I know that.
Yeah. I just listened to the audiobook, and yeah, there's just like such good research that showcases that like you can like be literally falling apart and like being able to keep push if you like believe in it enough. So
do you feel heading into this year's race that you need to take even more chances to get the result you want, or could you run a conservative race end to end and get what you're looking for?
I think both strategies can have the same outcome, I believe. I think each strategy kind of has a different playing card though. Like if you're coming from the back, you're going to have to do kind of like what I did, is like you're suffering, but you're going to have to find this extra oomph, right? Versus like if you're going to be more aggressive, you have to be like, you know, channeling that effort of like being chased. So I don't know what I'm going to do on Saturday actually. So we'll see what my strategy is.
Well, I heard you mention Jim. So is like going for the win in the cards here, is this something that is an objective for you? Like not just top 10 or top 3, but like is a win something you're looking for?
I mean, I think any elite would like to win Western States, obviously.
But plan for it. Like wanting and planning are different, right?
Yeah. I don't think I can like tell you exactly what my plans are. I think my plan is like, I want to race more aggressively this year. And like, where does that end up? Does that end up in 10th place? Does it end up in 3rd place? Does it end up in, I don't know, 1st place? Who knows? Like anything can happen. I don't know.
Is your approach to the race this year, you know, it sounds like it's going to be somewhat of like a start the race, see what the vibes are like, adjust accordingly. Are you going to be gauging yourself off of your competitors, or is it more internal effort? Like I want to be feeling like this at this section of the course, regardless of where people are, or is it like, I want to make sure I can see 4th place at this point and 2nd place at this point?
I think one of the things I love about racing is being adaptable to my environment. So I like to say that I always have a strategy, like a race strategy, but at the end of the day, like it never goes according to plan. Like you have to be agile in the moment. And so I think part of me wants to say like you're going to run the race versus like run your own race, but that could change. Like, you know, like we talked about at Michigan Bluff, like that was a moment where I was running my own race and then I probably transitioned to running the race. So I think it's going to be a combination of both actually.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
We had Dylan Bowman on the show yesterday, and we were kind of reflecting back on his commitment to Western States back in the mid-2010s as an athlete. And he was saying, look, like I sort of had this plan all along that I was going to dedicate 3 to 4 years of my life to this race, to hitting my potential and then kind of like being done with it. How do you think about this? Like, is this a race that you perennially want to come back to? Is it like a portion of your career where like this is the objective, but like other things will come into the picture years down the road? Like, how do you think about where this sits in your career?
I'm really attracted to races for the community aspect. And Western States is a prime example of like where the community shines in our sport. And if last year's Western States was indicative, like if I don't know if I don't know you both were there, but like Forest Hill was like one of the highlights of like all of my racing of like my entire career. Yeah. Like coming into Forest Hill, seeing the community, seeing so many pride flags, like the hype was so awesome. Like that is what I crave and what I live for. And Western States delivers that. So I can see myself coming back just for that reason.
So as long as that's here, you got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like I'm here for the community. I'm here for the hype. I'm here for like all of the energy. So
I love that.
I mean, Ryan, this has been an awesome conversation. We really appreciate your time. I think the last question I want to ask you. So I understand you've got the partnership with the feed. You've got the John G partnership. Do you have a shoe sponsor?
I do not.
Okay. So you are on the market.
Yeah, I guess you could say, or am I not on the market?
I was going to say, are you? We were projecting a bit. I was like, maybe you like getting to shop around your shoes.
Yeah, I have enjoyed trying lots of different products.
Okay.
So, okay, wait, it's a double-edged sword though, because I have been able to try a lot of different shoes, a lot of different brands, a lot of different models. It's also created like this paralysis analysis situation. Mm-hmm. Where like over the past few months, I'm like, what am I going to wear for Western States? What am I going to wear for what? Like every week I'm asking myself that question when versus like, if you just like if you had a shoe sponsor, you'd be like, obviously I'm wearing that shoe. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's actually been like negative in that way, but it's allowed me to see what I like and what I don't like, which has been, I would say maybe a slight net positive.
Can you say what you're going with on race day shoe choice?
Yeah, I think I'm starting the race in Nike Zagamas. Have you worn the new Zagama 2 shoes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Finn wore it for like 220 miles of Cocodona.
Is that what you ran in Cocodona?
Oh, Brett gave me a last minute. So the story is, and I don't want to make this about me, but
Ryan needs to come review a shoe with us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would be fun.
But yeah, but 4 days before the race, Brett said, check your mail. There's a shoebox there. Just do a shakeout run in this. Let me know what you think. Loved it. And then put 250 miles on it. It was great.
Yeah. Out of the box, I was like concerned it's like too beefy. Yeah. But then I ran in it. I was like, actually, I kind of like it. So I need a shoe that is stable. I have a really bad left ankle. I have some like major like ankle issues. And so I'm like always looking for a shoe that is like has good stability. And I found that shoe to be like really stable. So I think it'll be like my high country shoe. And then TBD if I do a shoe change.
Feel that one out.
It'll be a secret.
What was your Nike strategy again if you were a Nike athlete?
I was like, if I'm a Nike athlete, I'm going Zagamas from the start to Forest Hill, and then I'm throwing Alpha Fly 3 on from Forest Hill to the finish. That
would be the worst thing.
I would say with someone who's nervous about stability issues, I don't know if I would recommend that.
Okay, wait, actually, this reminds me, I need to poke fun at Nick Curry because so I'm at the Western States training camp and he was wearing like a Nike road shoe and I think it might have been like a carbon plated shoe. And I was like,
he's worn the Vaporfly for like just
and I was like,
races.
Nick, are you wearing this? And
like, he did
said,
Vaporflies
yes.
at Javelina.
Yeah, I just like find, like a a carbon plated road shoe to be like too unstable.
His
but
ankles must be built different.
Yeah. I have ran in the Ultra Fly, and I do like that. I ran it in Black Canyon, so it might come out here at Western States.
Those ones?
Yeah. These
Maybe.
ones, yeah.
Before we go, any final thoughts or calls to action for the audience that you want to leave them with?
Call to action?
Anything. You have the last word.
I would say...
What's your CTA?
This is like
You made it feel like a lot of pressure.
Candidate like speech. No, just joking. Because like the community and the hype is like so important to me at Western. Like, please like come out and like cheer and like make yourself known. Like, I want to give you a high five. Like, you are like, if you're a fan of the sport and like our team Ryan, like come out and cheer. Like, I love that. Okay, are we still live?